And welcome back to part 2 of Building Blocks of a Winning Proposal. I'm Judy Bratt, and we're going to do a quick recap of what it was that we covered in part 1. And so we looked at relationships, who's evaluating your proposal, went a little bit through rules, acronyms, and language. Then we talked about the secret embedded block, the idea of what it takes to get the cake baked for you. Win themes. Building block number 4, critical bid, no bid decision, how to make yours well and strongly and keep fine tuning your best decisions on what to do and what to let go. And we looked at the organized response, how to avoid proposal pitfalls. And we also have for you as part of this training an example of what we call a proposal deconstruct. And I'll be dropping that in the chat, and that'll be available to you who are doing this as a recorded program. And Eileen has developed that for us as well. So anybody, any questions as we get started? If you have questions as you go along, drop it in the chat or raise a hand, come off mute. We'd love to hear your questions. Please be generous with your questions. If it's on your mind, someone else is probably thinking of it too. So with that, Eileen, take it away and let's go through what we're going to be covering this time in part 2.
Well, in part 2, we're going to be basically covering the building block 6, building block 7, the appropriate writing. We're going to talk a little bit about writing styles, the deconstruct. We're going to talk about, I can't see the slide for some reason. I have something in front of it. Okay, obviously we're going to talk a little bit about technical, and then the complete submission, how to manage it. We're going to talk a little bit about oral presentations, which aren't very typical anymore, but you might get an oral presentation on the front end before you even get invited in. So we're still going to talk about the oral presentation a little bit, just in case you run into that situation. And then we're going to talk about building block number 10, which is best and final offer, which sometimes will happen as they're reviewing your proposals and they're starting to bubble up who are the top 3. They might come back to you and talk to you a little bit about pricing and see if you can shave off a couple more points and how you might want to handle that. So these are going to be conversations about that. And then after that, we'll have in the handout, which is a Word document, we have a whole section of tools and templates that we've included, and we'll be scrolling through quickly at the end, kind of giving you some takeaways. The reason why we're working in the Word document today is because we want you to break it apart, utilize it. I want you to take pieces, put it into your files, into your library as outlines so that you can start building out some of your proposal material before the bid comes out, especially the management plan stuff. Management plan can tend to be kind of cookie cutter requests, and having some vanilla stuff that you've written 2 or 3 pages that you can always edit and tailor for the situation. So we have a lot of pages of tools and templates for them. So what we're going to do now is, let me just see if I can share here, Judy. It is, let's see, stop other sharing. Do I want to continue? Yes, I do. So I tend to talk to myself when I'm working in Zoom on the buttons I want to pull. Can you see my screen right now?
We sure can.
Okay?
All good. Rock and roll.
Okay. So we're on building blocks number 5. And if you remember when we ended part 1, we talked about the proposal being punchy, logical, clear, concise, and organized. So the first thing I like to talk about is the table of contents. Not punchy, cutesy phrases written in a punchy way. I want you to be able to, when you send the proposal in, the contracting specialist is going to go through your proposal to make sure everything that they asked for is in it. So why not turn the table of contents into your compliance matrix for the proposal? So what I like to do is I like to list the items that they asked for in the proposal. They actually, and I'm just going to get a little spotlight here so you can see what I'm talking about. So notice here in this particular proposal, they asked for 3 copies of standard form 4249 signed. And then what I do is I say the items that they asked for in in the proposal, they asked you to respond with. They want volume 1 to be pricing so they can separate it out from volume 2, management plan, and they wanted just a corporate overview and nothing else. But then they wanted safety plans and other things in here. Let me just get in here and do a little tab there on that. I'm going to move that over. Okay. That should be over. Anyway, I'm going to just scroll down a little bit and get my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. So this compliance matrix is basically a compliance matrix for the proposal. So then the contracting specialist can actually get in there and quickly look at your compliance matrix, your checklist, and say, heck, they did my homework for me. They just made my job easy, and they throw you over to the evaluation committee. So you want that very first table of contents to say, you asked for these specific items, and did we address it? Is it enclosed? And you can either say the word yes, so that there it is, yes, or you can use a check mark as a graphic. We like to use check marks a lot. Remember, punchy, punch list, check marks. Proposals with a lot of check marks psychologically put someone into the frame of mind with yes. So, oh, they know what they're doing. They're compliant to the proposal. It's included. So you can either say yes or check mark and then tell them what page it's on. So like I said, what I like to do is put it right up front, making it very easy for the contracting specialist to just very, very simply go ahead and just scroll down a little bit to go ahead and just get that proposal approved for all the parts and pieces. Sometimes they have things where it's such a short proposal, like 10 pages, and I'm asking for 20 people that they want, 20 resumes or 20 pieces of information or 20 of these or 20 of those, and you don't have enough pages. So one of the things you can ask in the Q&A section when you're asking questions about the proposal layout, can I add an addenda? So that if you have a table for your key staff, but you want to put their resumes in, you might want to put that in the addenda. Or there might be an award and you wanted to have a copy of that award to show them, or a certain certification that you've got and you want to prove it, or a letter from a particular employee that you brought in for this project and you want to show the letter, but it's not included in the proposal. So sometimes it's okay to ask the contracting officer, hey, this proposal is only 10 pages and it has a lot of moving parts and pieces. So maybe can we add an addenda? Is it appropriate? And I'll tell you yes or no. And if you can, then you can add in any of those extra little things that you're doing. So I'm just going to scroll down here a little bit more. So the other thing we want to be able to do, and this is probably the hardest part of the proposal, and a lot of people think that it's very methodical, which it is, but there's an art form to what we call deconstructing the RFP. So I want to walk you through it, and it's a pat your head, rub your belly kind of process, and I need you just for a moment to envision this with me. I'm not going to show it to you. I need you to envision this with me. I want you to picture downloading the RFP, which is typically going to be some sort of PDF file, and you're going to open up a Word document. So you have the PDF and then you have a Word document. And you're going to get some software that can unlock this PDF so that you can grab the information and put it into your Word document. You're going to call this Word document the solicitation, the agency, the solicitation number. You're going to call it deconstruct, and the date and your initials. So the actual document that's there will be very, very clear about what exactly it is and the last time it was edited. Now that we are able to share files, it's a lot easier because you can have a shared file and it just gets updated and you can do some annotations to it, etc. But I want you to save this Word document as the deconstructed RFP. And what you're going to do is you're going to read the original RFP multiple times. You can't miss a trick, even the FAR clauses, which is really painful. But just like we talked to Jack a little bit earlier, and he said that he was going to use the proposal layout template, anticipating a proposal coming out. And he thought that maybe even putting in the FAR clauses in there to track them that he anticipates might be coming is probably not a bad idea too. But when we're deconstructing the RFPs come out, the first thing, the person that's deconstructing it, they need to close the door, close the windows, turn off the phone, put a sign on the door, nobody bother me for the next 4 to 6 hours. Sometimes deconstructing an RFP can take a couple of days. The reason why this time is so incredibly important is because if we don't outline the proposal properly from the very beginning, we're going to lose. So the person that's actually doing the deconstruct needs to be left alone and in a quiet space and not bothered. I know some of you who write proposals are just probably rolling around laughing because you get bothered all the time and hurry up with the deconstruct, but we really need to leave them alone. We need to be in a quiet space so that we can work on this. So we have these two documents open. We have the RFP and we have our Word document. And we're going to go to the sections L and M to go get the outline that they're expecting us to respond to, and we're going to drop it into the proposal, this Word document. And then we're going to start creating spaces between the sections. We're going to number it exactly the way they told us they wanted it numbered. We're going to match their numbering. So for example, volume 1 is a Roman numeral, volume 2 is a Roman numeral, and then they have question 1, question 2, question 3, and they have like little a, b, c. So you're going to have to number those 1a, 1b, 1c. So you're going to need to create the outline, create some space. So for example, like I said earlier, in the little outline that I did above, I'm just going to go up a little bit here. When I downloaded this particular RFP, the first thing they asked for was 3 copies of Standard Form 1449 signed. So what I did is I said what was necessary, and then I actually went and grabbed Standard Form 1449 and put it in my outline 3 times, with the instructions on how to fill it out in red just above it. So it's already placeholdered in. And then I have a section for a corporate financial statement. And then either I have a copy of it and I drop it in, or I leave space for it because I know it's going to go in. I have volume 1, which is pricing. They usually give you an outline for that. So I grab that and drop it in. And then for volume 2, I might have a cover page for that. And then I have, 2.1 corporate overview, and they might have some sub points you want to talk about. They leave room for this. I start to create this outline, this deconstructed outline, and I start to create spaces in between them. Just going to scroll down a little bit. And I'm grabbing this from section L and M. And I start to peel information out of the RFP and drop it into my outline of what they're asking for. Sometimes they write it in a paragraph and they say, in your corporate overview, we need years of experience, what your bonding capacity is, how many employees do you have, what's your past performance. And so then what I would do is I would take that paragraph and then I would turn it into a punch list, A, B, C, D, and I'd leave room to what I was going to answer to those items. If they want past performance and they say similar size and scope, I enumerate those things. I put check marks that, yes, it fits all these things. And then I leave 3 placeholders for my past performances that I'm going to go get. And again, the outline starts to build itself. So then I start to color code the deconstruct. Any RFP instructions in red that would get you thrown out immediately if you didn't have it. For example, the font's not right, has to be a certain font, or make sure you cover these issues. I turn that red in my deconstruct after I've moved it over. And then anything that I know I've already pre-written, it's already in my library. Let's say I have those 3 past performances. I'm going to highlight that section yellow, knowing I'm going to go get that from my library. I'm going to pull that information in, and I'm going to tailor it for this particular situation. Things that are in green are my win themes. So if they say in the management plan, tell us who your key staff is, and I know that they want Joe as my project manager, I'm going to put in green, make sure we highlight Joe, his background, his security clearances, his years of experience at that agency. And I put all that in instructions in green because I know it's one of my win themes. I'm pulling that also from the anticipating document that we did before the bid came out. I'm going to start pulling that information in. And again, color coding win theme issues in green on how I'm going to approach this. And then I keep reading the RFP and pulling stuff over, making sure I didn't miss anything. And I'm in this outline, it starts to be this punch list of what's expected. Again, things that are written, instructions that are written in paragraphs with commas, I create a checklist for those items. Make sure we cover these issues. Now, what I like to do too is I color code in blue. Me as the proposal manager deconstructing the RFP, I put in blue notes on what we want to write about. Like I'll put in, we've been in business for 30 years. I'll just answer the question, 30 years in business. We're going to do Joe. It's in green. It's just kind of there. And so I'm putting my notes in there on how I want to approach it or asking my writers, this is what we need you to write about in here. So I put in any feedback notes, also pulled from that proposal template that we did earlier, anticipating hey, we got to talk about our specialty software here because we were expecting. So I put in notes about that in blue. Now, what I like to do too is, we talk about reviewing the proposal and the timing on the reviews. The deconstruct needs to happen. The minute it comes out, the person managing the proposal needs to deconstruct that RFP and read and keep filling in information. And they need a backup editor for the deconstruct. And so what the backup editor does is the backup editor types in purple. So now the deconstructor can be writing things and also asking questions in here. Hey, the font size changed in the instructions here. Maybe we want to ask, and then we're going to also have a little placeholder in our proposal for questions we might want to ask the contracting officer about the proposal. And we start creating that placeholder, and we'll probably have 10, 12, 15 questions. We don't want to ask the contracting officer 15 questions, but we ask them in this little placeholder, and the second person deconstructing or editing the deconstruct will look at that Q&A and see if they can find it in the RFP, the answer, okay? Because sometimes the contracting officer will say, the answer's in the RFP. I'm sure you've heard that before. So your backup editor of the deconstruct can look at your Q&A, things that you missed. And yeah, this font, did you see this? They changed it in this section. And then the other person said, well, leave it because maybe that's a hook of them looking for people from not paying attention. So we're not going to ask that question. We're just going to make the font the right size. So it's a conversation. Notice that you're thinking, my God, this deconstruct are all these different colors. But the idea is to go into a section, work on it, type it up. Once the proposal manager and the editor, or it's just you're happy with how it's written, just highlight it, turn it black. So the idea, it's like a game. You deconstruct it and color code it, and now it's a working document that you're trying to turn the copy black. You just keep working it and working it and working it. So I have a question. I just want to ask you and open it up to you. Is this the way you deconstruct? Tell me how you because this is, if this isn't done right, we lose. It's more important than the last final walkthrough and editing and of the proposal, getting the outline right. That's why a lot of companies that are consultants sell outlines for major proposals so that they've done all of this for you. But when you start doing tasks for your proposals, you're gonna have to write some of these. So let me ask you, anybody here with proposal experience, How do you deconstruct? Do you literally print it all out, get out the highlighters and put sticky notes? Because I like to move from one electronic file to another. Any thoughts? Just turn yourself off mute if you can.
I usually highlight.
You highlight, Helene?
Yeah. I mean, I go to the sections that you mentioned, but I'll pick out key things and highlight them.
So you're more like, do you highlight it electronically, or do you print it and you actually physically highlight it?
No, I highlight it electronically.
Great. So that's how you have the RFP open, and then you're working with your outline, and you're just watching. So do you kind of check off the highlighted items as you go if you know that you addressed it?
Well, so first I look at it and then I highlight what's important. Then I create the outline, and then while I'm doing that, I'm also creating the compliance matrix. So I kind of take what I'm taking and put it into the compliance matrix, and then I go back and check it.
Oh, awesome. So this is just, let's take it to the next level, that when you create your outline, now you can start making notes to yourself in the deconstruct of what you want to say while it's fresh in your mind. And then you can keep going back in and combing it. So it's really close to what you do. It's just now taking it to a little bit more of a color-coded level. So that's great. Excellent. Thank you so much for your feedback. Anybody else? Anybody else want to share their deconstruct process? Pretty much the same?
I can say how I do it.
Hi, Jack.
Hi. I put everything into an Excel document, and so I list out the section and the key information from that section, and then I highlight things that are specific things that I need to make sure I focus on for the RFP when writing my proposal. And then when I'm actually writing my proposal, I go back to that Excel document, and then I black out all the lines that I know I've already done so that I don't double do what I've already done. And then sometimes if it's a long RFP, I'll put the page that I wrote it on for my proposal so I can reference it back.
Perfect. So everybody's got their process, but I got to thank you so much, Jack. So like I said, this is probably one of the most important things a proposal manager needs to really nail down. And some people, I mean, one of the companies I was working with that we captured 65 million in 18 months, I told you we had one proposal writer and we had 45 salespeople that were throwing proposals at her. And I had to train her, and we went through this training, and she's like, and one of the first things that they asked us to do is to write a proposal for practice. Like, it was an 8-week process, and I knew that we were going to lose the bid because I knew the client didn't know us. And I said to the management, I just said, they don't know us. Why are we doing this? And they said, we want the team to write a proposal for practice so you have it, right? Well, the feedback that we got, of course we lost. It was a beautiful proposal. We did a really good job on it. We lost because one page, at the time it was copied and we had to send it in, one page slipped in the Xerox machine, and the solicitation number had a Z in it, and they said that looked like a 2 typo. I mean, they were that nitpicky in those days getting that out, and of course electronically it makes things a little bit easier. And I realized that what I suggest is, as you're growing proposal writers on your team, you don't have to write the entire proposal to practice. I say, if you're anticipating a proposal coming out from an agency, go and grab other proposals they've posted before and practice deconstructing. Practice your deconstructing process. And get your junior proposal writers getting good at that, so that you can assign that and they can start to get good. The person I had on my team, she's like gifted at it now. So I tend to recommend her a lot because she's so good at deconstructing. She doesn't have to write the whole thing because the deconstruction is so good. And she's more in the construction business, so she's used to construction contracts and proposals. So having someone who can deconstruct the RFP is really great. And then as you can see, this is just an idea of what an outline might look like. There might be an executive summary, a technical approach, management plan, just some things that we might want to be covering. And then I'm just going to scroll down. And as Judy said, she, in the chat box, she offered a sample deconstruct. So you can go ahead and download that. And if you're listening to this meeting and listening to this recording, we'll have it as an additional document for you as an example deconstruct. But I always like to have a section for proposal production and mailing and or emailing all the nitpicks that they have about it, because sometimes they put it in different parts of the proposal because they're hoping you read it. So you've got to constantly be looking for little hooks that you might get knocked out for making a mistake on something. So have a placeholder for proposal production, sending, mailing, whatever that might be. And then as you notice this numbering system, we call this is came from the Booz Allen days originally, and then the government kind of picked it up. So how we like to do the numbering system is 1.0 is a chapter. 1.1 is a topic. 1.1.1 is a subtopic. So if you're still working with a deconstructed outline and you haven't created page numbers and you have several people looking at it at the same time, you're able to say to people, let's go to chapter 2, topic 2, subtopic 3. And everybody can flip to that section and it's apples to apples to apples. And it also gives the evaluation committee the ability to be able to compare those specific sections with the other vendors. That's why we also want to match their numbering system so they can say, hey, look at the safety record in the management plan, chapter 2, section, topic 1, subtopic 3. Take a look at their safety plan here. They say that their safety record is 0.56 EMR, which beats everybody else out. And that's important to us. That's an evaluation. So it also gives the evaluators, when the proposals are taken apart, to be able to compare with each other. So if you have your spreadsheets, you're also going to, if you're going to do a deconstruct by spreadsheets, you're going to use that numbering system probably in your spreadsheets as well. But when you're communicating it with your team, teach your team the 1.0s, the 2.0s, the 3.0s are chapters, 1.1s are topics, and 1.1.1s are subtopics in your outlines. Scrolling down here. All right. So the one thing that's really great about making the whole job easier for everybody is, especially for your technical team, is providing templates, examples of things that you've written before. It can really speed up the process of getting people to write in the right voice, in the right style, what you're hoping to do. And this is just a little mini version of a writer's template where you can number it out in blue, kind of tell your writers what you're looking for, some notes, etc. So giving them outlines and templates really makes their job so much easier. So I want to talk for a minute a little bit about writing style. So tell me, what do you read every day? What do you open up every day and start reading? What's public and you go there and you read it? What are things that is typical, something you might read quickly and easily? Just every day. You open up your computer and you go to, what do you read?
Email.
Anybody?
Email, yeah.
Read
just
email. What else do you do? So if you want to find out about the world, where do you go?
The news.
Internet.
You might go to a news channel. You might read a newsletter. You go straight to the news. And one of the things about the news is written in such a way that you can very quickly peruse what's going on in just about a cup of coffee. So let's just for fun, pretend that life is a little bit more relaxed and we're either on our computer and we have 15 minutes with our cup of coffee to actually read the news, or maybe we do it old school and we get a newspaper delivered to our house and we open it up. We like the feel of it. We like the physicality of it, or we're opening up, the pages of the newsletters that we like. When we look at the newspaper or we look at a newsletter, what's the first thing you do? You typically scan the headlines, right? You just go quickly through the headlines and see what grabs your attention. And then if something grabs your attention, you're either going to go to that section of the newspaper physically, or you're going to go to that story and click on it to read more. And you're probably going to read maybe a paragraph of it. You're going to just look at the paragraph and go, okay, I got the gist of that story, and you move on to the next story. But if you don't believe it, if it's intriguing, if it's your expertise and you want to question what they're writing, you're going to keep reading. They've got your attention. And so one of the things we like to share in terms of writing in a style, writing a proposal can be like writing for a newspaper. Because what we want is, we know that our readers, especially the technical people, they might not look at the price. The price is going to be separated out. They're not going to look at the management plan first. They're going to go straight to the technical, where they have an interest or an expertise, and they're going to read that section. They're going to dive right in, or they're going to skim across the headlines of most of the proposal and get into the areas that they're interested in. And what we need to do is we need to be able to write the proposal in such a way that they can skim the headlines and they feel compliant, check, 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 that within a paragraph or so of each of those headlines, we've got the gist of what the vendor's saying. And if we want to read more, we can, right? But then when we get into an area where we want to learn or we want to hear what they have to say, there's more detail underneath it. So I want to talk a little bit about writing journalistically, because just like a newspaper, a proposal has sections that you only have so much room. And when we're in a hurry in the newspaper business, and in the, even in the website business, you only have so much room for it to fit on the page, for it to look good. They'll say only 100 words or only 300 words, and we're going to fit it in here. That's all you have, right? There's an agreement between journalistic writers and the editors that if I send you this article and it's last minute, let's say it's right before publishing time, the editor doesn't have time to read through the whole thing, change the font to make it fit. First of all, they can't change the font because that's the style of the website. That's the style of the newspaper. That's the style of the proposal. So they can't change the font to make it fit. It's too long. They need to edit it down. They don't have time to read through it because they've got all this other stuff to review and edit as well, or it's going in last minute. So the easiest agreement that journalists have, or writers and proposals need to do when they're writing their sections, is to write in such a way that all the editor has to do is cut from the bottom. Cut from the bottom to make it fit. And it still is a strong piece of writing. So what I'd like you to do for just a minute or so, I'd like you to grab a piece of paper. Grab a piece of paper, and I'm going to teach you in 5 minutes or less how to write like a journalist. Now, it took me 4 years to get my journalism degree, but I can teach people how to write journalistically in 5 minutes or less. So grab a piece of paper. You can't see it because there it is, my piece of paper. So I want you to think, we're kind of going off the page here because it's kind of the secret sauce of this class. How to write like a journalist. So a journalist has to put in the very first paragraph. Remember, if they read the headline, they only have time to just read a paragraph of the story and believe it or don't believe it. So what needs to be in paragraph 1, everybody? Anybody want to help me out? Paragraph number 1. Paragraph number 1. What do you think needs to be in the very first paragraph in a news story?
Your win theme or your key point.
Right? And whatever the topic is you're talking about, we need to know, like in journalism, the 6 W's, the 6 questions. Who?
What? Where?
What?
Why?
Where? When? Why? And how? In one paragraph. And in journalism, that first paragraph is 30 words or less. 30 words or less. How can you answer all these questions? We'll get back to it in just a moment. Paragraph 2. And by the way, in journalism, each paragraph is only 1 sentence. Why? Because they're fitting in columns. And if it's 5 sentences, it would be 1 gigantic paragraph in that story, and no one will read it. So the next paragraph is fact number 1. Fact number 1, the most important fact that proves paragraph 1. Fact, the third paragraph in our news story is fact number 2, the second most important fact that proves, I'm writing this down, that's why you see me looking, that proves paragraph number 1. The next paragraph, paragraph 4, is fact number 3, proving paragraph 1. So now, if you write in this style, all the facts are in the very first paragraph. And then paragraph 1 and paragraph 2 is the first fact that proves paragraph 1. Then the next one, second most important. So now an editor can just edit from the bottom. Just cut it from the bottom and it still fits and it still stands strong because all the facts are in the beginning. When we write this way in our proposals, now the people that are reviewing it, you're answering the mail in the very first paragraph, and then you're supporting it with details, facts behind it. So let me give you an example. We're just going to have a fun little exercise. I'm going to say, Kathy, since you keep popping in, thank you so much, and Helene, we're going to use you too if you're around. We're going to do an example. So we're just going to say, okay, let's say the story is that Kathy won the lottery.
I like that.
How do you like that story?
Yeah, that's great.
Won the lottery. Like that. And then let's say you bought your ticket at a 7-Eleven nearby. And I'm just going to use a city. I don't know exactly what city you're in, but I'm just going to say Washington, D.C. for now. Okay, just for fun, because this is federal contracting. And tell me, Kathy, if you were to build a dream home anywhere, where would it be with your lottery money?
Let's say the Alps.
Alps, love it. Love it. And then Helene, you work with Kathy, so you're, you know that that's where she's always wanted to go, if that ever happened, and that she's going to still stick with you, working with you no matter what, because she's won the lottery. She becomes a partner, right, at the company. So let's just have some fun, and we'll just say, here's how we write the first paragraph. Dreaming of buying a home. Dreaming of buying a home in the Alps. Kathy Nibley won the lottery yesterday after buying a ticket at 7-Eleven. Who, what, where, when, why, how, all answered in 30 words or less, in 1 sentence. It can be done. Okay, fact number 1. Kathy's family member, we'll just say sister, brother, name, family member. Oh, no. Fact number 1 is 7-Eleven owner John Doe said he sold Kathy the ticket yesterday and he collected his $150,000 split. So the fact number 1 proves paragraph 1, the first witness that was most affected by the win. The paragraph after that, Kathy's owner of her company, Helene Moon, confirmed Kathy's on her way to the Alps to pick out her new home. But we'll continue to work with IDOS technologies.
Exactly.
Right? So you like the story? You liking the story, Kathy? Is it a good one?
I'm dreaming it as we go along. This is great. And of course, Eleni, I always work with you.
Yeah, there you go. So what I'm saying here is notice how we got the who, what, where, when, why, how. And I got to tell you, it took me 4 years in college to write over and over and over and over again that first paragraph and nail it in 30 words or less. But if a proposal manager gets the facts from their salespeople, from the field of exactly what the client told them they wanted, it's really easy to write that opening paragraph because you're basically repeating the story back to them of what they told you. And then you're backing it with facts on what you're supplying, what you're, how you, so it could be, I'm just using the safety record issue. Roofing company ABC is the #1 roofing company and known for its safety record by the EMR rating. Fact number 1, EMR rating is 0.56, which is less than half the rating of what you're asking for. What that really means is one person had their a broken arm 5 years ago amongst 3,000 employees. So you can take some of those facts to back that we have the best safety record ever, responding to the safety section. So I say that when we're putting together the proposal, write it like in a journalistic style. And some things I want you to stay away from. Graphics that we want to use, they need to be compelling. They need to, for example, if you're going to use a flow chart, don't make it all over the place. Make sure it has swim lanes so that you can quickly read it from left or right. You read it really quickly. It's really easy to read. This flow chart has swim lanes. It's easy to follow, right? We want to stay away from world class, best in breed, uniquely. Get rid of very. You're not very anything. Take all those words out. Another word that journalistically, if you want to shorten your proposal up like that, search and destroy every single that. The word that. It's just a hesitation. It's a comma. The word that is a non-word. In journalism, if you put the word that in a story, you get an F because they believe it's a waste of space. So that's another way to tighten up writing. We, us, our, the team are working with you and your team. So name the team in the beginning, and then I would typically say the company name in the beginning chapter, and then we, us, our, working with you and your. So you're reminded who you are, because at the bottom, probably in the footer, your name is going to be there anyway. You remind them of it, but you constantly say the team, we are working with you. Also, because they're so used to reading journalistically, don't let your proposals have these massive paragraphs. Okay, so you can't fit the who, what, where, when, why, how in 30 words or less. But keep that opening paragraph just a couple sentences. And then each of your facts, let them be bulleted with check marks or really, really stand out. You don't have to mess around with a whole bunch of words that don't mean anything. Get to the facts so they can just punch it off, make sure that it works. So I'm just going to scroll down here and just say, I was teaching this a while back, and someone said to me, I love the journalistic style of writing a proposal. This gentleman who said that he would charge $50,000 per proposal he would write for people. So he tended to write gigantic proposals. He'd have a war room and everybody together. And what he said he would do is he would, in the proposal, he would have the chapter or the topic headline, and then he would answer that particular issue with the who, what, where, when, why, how, and he would literally put a box around it and gray it or make it, just highlight it with a box, and then let the paragraphs below it support the box so that the reviewer can just basically go from topic to topic to topic and just read the boxes. So he basically says, I try to keep everything, every little topic, 1 page or 1 or 2 pages, and I'm teaching the reader to quickly go to the boxes. And so I love that idea so much, I created a template for you. So here's a little template that you can drop into your deconstruct, and you can kind of build out your outlines. And I'm basically saying, put in the topic paragraph what it's about, and I'm giving you instructions here on how to write that opening paragraph, and then I'm giving you ways to approach paragraph 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I'm giving you some questions to get it out there for you, and then I've also given you something in here. Sometimes people like to break up their proposals with things called call-out quotes. Call-out quotes. Kind of a magazine style. Here's the challenge with call-out quotes. If you're going to use a call-out quote, don't use a call-out quote with someone that's in the evaluation committee, or they actually know that person, or they're somewhere close to it. If they're in the evaluation committee, it's really embarrassing for them. So don't use a call-out quote that you know someone's going to be in the room. But this is just an example of something that you could use in terms of a section. Sometimes people like to have an in summary paragraph sometimes. So that's, I put it in there because people still like their essay writing. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. Some people like that approach as well. But I also gave you another template. It's basically the same, but I gave you a graphic example. This graphic example is when they ask you for key staff, and they say you only have a page, and tell us all about your 20 people, these roles. And you're just going, well, how can I fit that in 2 pages? Create a table. So put the person's name, their experience, their education, their certs, clearances, whatever it is they're asking for. But what I also want you to do is in the far right, check mark that it meets the criteria of the proposal. So once again, it's helping your reviewers with a punch list, that they don't actually have to read all this. They can just go down and you've done your due diligence. These people fit. So just another little outline tool. Anybody have any thoughts about their approach to the writing style of proposals? Do you like this concept? And by the way, congratulations, you have your degree from Wayne State University, where let's see, Lily Tomlin went to school. So it's a pretty good journalism school, but in less than 5 minutes, you've now become a journalist. It's really easy to write things quickly once you learn the who, what, where, when, why, how, and then backing it. And it can write, pretty much proposals can write themselves if you have the facts. So anybody else have a thought or any feedback regarding writing style or questions? Okay. So marks are your friends. Okay. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the technical, because this is the hardest part of the proposal, especially when you haven't met the client and you're trying to wing it, trying to figure out what they want. So I want to talk a little bit about the process of a technical, and my hope for you is that you know the story, you know what the client wants, and you know what you're going to be providing it to them. But we're just going to be using this as a tool to be able to give assignments, writing assignments to our people. So a lot of times, people that write proposals, they just take the technical and they throw it to their program manager. And they say, okay, you write this part, and then another, program manager, you write that part, and then you get everything in 5 different styles of writing. One person gives you a dissertation while somebody else puts it on a napkin. So what I suggest is changing the way you write the technical. One of the things you might want to do, and of course, when you have your deconstruct, you're going to create some sort of a work breakdown structure of how you're going to deliver this thing, and based on tasks, right? And so when you do this, what I want you to do is bring the team together in a Zoom meeting, in a collaboration meeting. Now that the pandemic's over, possibly in a conference room if you're all in the same town, bringing everybody together for a period of time to hash out together the technical. And I know this isn't easy and it isn't typical, but I'm just throwing this out here as a concept, okay? Let's say we have the luxury of bringing people together either in a Zoom meeting or physically in a conference room talking about the technical. And you have a couple of engineers in the room, they have different types of expertise. And let's just say for fun that the customer told us about a particular engineer that they want on the job to help work on this project with us. And they've suggested them, and they're in the proposal with us. We've signed a teaming agreement, an NDA with them, and they're in the room. So we've got our engineers in the room. Now, when I write a technical, it's really hard because I'm not a technical person. I'm a journalist. So I need to gather facts in order to help manage or write the technical. So I bring everybody together and we first lay out the work breakdown structure together, kind of laying out what needs to actually happen and what needs to be done and what needs to be accomplished in the technical based on the outline. Of course, this is a client that we know, and maybe we've done work with them in the past. So here's a classic work breakdown structure, but I'm going to show you a tool that I absolutely love using. It's called the task table, and it's on page 35. And we're going to take each task with our engineers and experts in the room, and instead of them writing, which they hate to do, they get to pontificate and you take notes and you're able to put it in so they can start to puzzle through how to do this work. And you're trying to put the parts and pieces together, task by task by task. And then what we do is maybe even, and some companies do this, they have what's called a war room. And they have a bunch of people that are writing the proposal together. And when they do the tasks, they have a piece of paper that they put on the wall when they're done filling out the task table, and they start to storyboard the technical together. So what we're going to do is I'm looking for 2 volunteers. I need 2 volunteers, and I know I've had Kathy and Helene, and I've had Jack. I'm just going to do a call out. Can 2 volunteers step up? That can be part of my technical team. Come on now. 2 volunteers. Vania, hi, how are you?
Good.
Good to see you. Anybody else? Emily, you want to join me? Emily. Hey, Jack, you want to step up?
Of course.
My technicals. Hi, Jack. Hi, Fania. Good to have you here. Okay, so let's just have some fun. Let's say, all right, ready? We're an aerospace company, and our expertise is building a jet that can land on an aircraft carrier, and it can be stored underneath. Now, this jet that we've built before has foldable wings because they need to put it on an elevator and send it down. And they need to put it into, let's say, deck number 3. I'm not a Navy person, but let's say deck 3 into slot 1, and it fits in a certain dimension. Okay? And Fania and Jack, you're my experts, engineers. And let's say that the Air Force came to us and they said, we need you to work with the Navy because we need a special mission on this jet that you've built for them, but we need it to be stealthy. it has to disappear in radar. So, Fania, you're my wingman. You know everything about foldable wings. Jack, you're my stealth person. And let's say the Air Force said, and you're going to work with Jack. You're going to work with Jack from this other company who's our stealth expert. So, Fania, I have you in the room. I have Jack in the room. And then I have my fuselage person. I have my electronics and avionics person in the room. And we're going to first start with the task of foldable wings. Okay? So, Fania, you're my expert at foldable wings. So, the purpose in this task, we present, and then what do we present? We present a jet with foldable wings, right? So
Yes.
that's what we would just write in here, a jet with foldable wings. The objective of this jet is to what?
Have foldable wings, I guess.
Yeah, for it to be able to fly,
Oh, that's it.
for it to be able to fit on the elevator, onto the elevator, onto deck 4, into room number 1. You know?
Okay.
What are the performance objectives? What's unique about our solution is, Fania, you did this before for.
I'm sorry.
It flies. It works. It fits. So that's what we would be saying here. What's the critical issue here is that it flies, it works, it fits, and there's no problem with the fact that it's foldable wings. Now we can keep asking, you know, why should this be done this way? We can say it's got to fit. So what are some of the subtasks? You know, maybe we pull old proposals in to pull some of this in. Now, this is where Jack comes in. It says, hold on a minute. We're stealthy on stealth, but the stealth doesn't have foldable wings. And I think radar is going to be able to be seen on the seams. Right, Jack?
Right. Yes. Right. Absolutely. That
You're
would be
going
a
to
big
say,
issue.
hold on, foldable wings here. I need to put stealth, and if we test this aircraft and we spray the stealth stuff on it, whatever that might be, and now that we're folding the wings, when it's flying, because, you know, they can see the helmet, they have to fix all that stuff. All the little sensors coming out of the airplane or the jet. But stealth guy is saying, but the seams on the wing. So we have, the wing has already been made. It already can be made. And we already know how to make stealth. But there's a sudden subtask the two of you need to resolve. So we can write the proposal about the foldable wings. That's easy. We did it before. And we can write about stealth and that we have Jack on our team. But now the two of you have a subtask in our storyboard that you have to resolve and present in the proposal. By having people in the room, they're not only giving us the answers to why things are being built or why things are being done, but they're fixing problems and adding subtasks in that are necessary to create the solution. So it gets people to collaborate as a team instead of everybody in their own silos writing their piece. Imagine if Fania was, oh, I've made the foldable wings before. So you just slap together the answers to the question. I did this before. Here you go. You know, and then Jack, I email Jack his piece and he goes, well, stealth works. You know, here's the stealth I've given my past. But if you're together and you both go, wait a minute, we got an issue. You got a problem, Houston. So it allows your technical team to kind of talk through it. And as a writer, you're capturing this in this storyboard tool, task by task by task, answering these questions. And then when you answer these questions, it's easy. You can start rolling them up, top paragraph, who, what, where, when, why, how, then the facts, how you're going to do it. And then that allows you to add in those extra little tasks in there, or subtasks that might be resolving issues. So, Bonnie and Jack, thank you so much for your participation. Thank you for helping me being my wingmen. here in the building blocks of a winning proposal. So what I love about this is one of my other attendees took this tool home with them. Like a journalist, she said, my struggle was I can't get to my project team because they're on site all day and then I see them at night. And that's a struggle for me. And they're mad at me when I send them whole sections to write at night. They don't know what to give me. So what she did is she laid out her own storyboard on what's expected based on the work breakdown structure. And then she took the task, walked in or placed a call with the one engineer, interviewed them, filled in all the blanks for them, created the storyboard, and then had a meeting sharing the storyboard with the team. People threw ideas around. Then she pulled it back together, started writing those pieces, and then give it back to the team. It's now all in one voice, written journalistically, easy to read, punch list answers. And it gives the project managers, it kind of keeps them from having to finish sentences in an eloquent way in a certain style. You're just getting the facts from them and you're writing it journalistically. So let me ask some of you, what do you think of this? To me, the whole class, to me, that writing the technical is the hardest part. And I think this task table can really make things get organized with your program and project managers. And they're going to be so thankful that they don't have to write. Instead of waiting for them to give you the piece, you just interview them and you write it. Thoughts? Any thoughts? Okay, I'll move on. I love this tool. It really helps pull great information, and it shows shortfalls or problems that you can fix in the proposal, or issues that you suddenly go, wait a minute, that's so-and-so's solution. So the next section that I want to talk a little bit about is submitting. Now, remember, I know that a lot of you are trying to write proposals by yourself, so these are conversations that you're having with yourself. But at some point, you're going to bring in other team members. You're going to be the lead on it. Someone else might be the lead on it. But the managing of the proposal itself and writing the proposal can really be a chore. And I want to talk a little bit on behalf of the proposal manager. One of the most frustrating things about a proposal manager is they're asked to write the proposal. They have a deadline. They're not in a high management position. Okay. And then suddenly they're chasing project managers. It's like herding cats. It's so difficult. And worse, they're chasing down your teaming partners to get information from them. And everybody's scrambling. It's really difficult to be the proposal manager. So the best way to really manage the proposal process is to first start talking a little bit about who's going to manage it, and you're going to put together a kickoff meeting. And in this kickoff meeting, by the way, the bid comes out, let's just say it comes out on a Friday, and it's due in 30 days, right? The kickoff meeting needs to happen Monday morning. So it came out Friday, Monday morning, and the proposal manager is probably going to spend the weekend doing the deconstruct. And so that on Monday morning, and we're going to send an email out to anybody who's invited to the kickoff meeting. You're going to invite your teaming partners. You're going to invite the program managers and project managers, the proposal manager. You're going to bring in your pricing people. Anybody that's going to be contributing to this proposal, you need at the kickoff meeting. And I want to come out with a word here, push down. Push down is when you bring in another company that's teaming with you and the owner comes, and then 2 or 3 meetings a couple weeks later, suddenly they've given this work to a writer on their team. And the writer knows nothing about this project because they didn't come to the kickoff meeting. So I like to tell people in the invitation for the kickoff meeting, not only do I want you to come, bring anybody you're probably going to push the responsibility of writing the proposal down, bring them to the kickoff meeting, please. So invite everybody to the kickoff meeting. It could be in Zoom, it could be in person, it could be a telephone conference call, but get everybody together for about an hour or two to talk about the proposal. And if you're an owner and you have a proposal manager that's going to be managing the proposal process, what I want you to do, owners, is to pass the baton, introduce the proposal to everybody, say why you're bidding on it, show them the bid no bid template that you did on why you decided to go for it, why you're investing 30 days into this proposal, how much is probably going to cost your company to do it, and why it's so important, and why you think you're going to win. Talk about the win themes. Why? Because the people in the room, they might have been on site with the client and might be able to give you a couple more win themes that they heard about. They're going to contribute. Yeah, I think we should also include the fact that, so-and-so is a program manager. They told us in the field that they want them. Joe, right? Oh yeah, that's right. Put that in, right? And then owner, you're going to pass the baton publicly to your proposal manager. And you're going to say, I want, let's just say, I want Susie. She's going to be handling the proposal on our behalf from this point on. And when you talk to Susie, you're talking to me. Susie's going to let me know how it's going and whether or not you're meeting deadlines or whether or not you're coming to the meetings and contributing. I want you to realize that this is so important to me because I'm investing this money in this proposal process. So when you talk to Susie, she's got power here in this proposal thing. Call her back, respond to her, meet deadlines, and then you publicly pass the baton to Susie. Now, Susie or the proposal manager is going to take over this from this point on. And now, proposal managers, I want you to be able to define a couple things. So remind people, hey, I know you're going to have some people that you're going to bring in at some point as push down. Let's get them on board as early as possible and get them up to date on what's going on. Even maybe record the Zoom meeting so you can share it to the push down people so they know the whole story. The other thing I want proposal managers for you to do is to define a couple of things. Another definition I want to teach you, it's called circling. Everybody, circling is something that we see that happens above us in the sky. What do you picture when you think something circling above you in the sky? What is that? Circling above you.
The sun?
Think of something circling. What?
Circling above you, the sun, the moon.
It's a physical, it's something flying above you, circling.
I imagine like a bird or like a vulture or something circling over.
A vulture,
Yeah.
right on. But I like the sun and moon because that's time, right? But I love it. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Jay. A vulture. What is a vulture doing? Waiting for something to die before it comes and hits it. And I want you to talk about this with your group because the struggle with writing a proposal is when you give deadlines to people and they come back to you with all their excuses. My dog ate my homework. I'm on billable. I was at my kid's kindergarten graduation. I was doing this. I was doing that. I'm behind on this. You're circling. Kill it. That's going to be your crack the whip word. You're circling. Kill it. So what's going to happen is as you're meeting, and first you kind of talk about it in the meeting. Look, you guys, I'm going to give you deadlines. And these deadlines are, when I give you an assignment, you get 2 days. I'm not going to give you a week, 48 hours. But the good part of that deadline is I'm going to give you short assignments. Short assignments, easy assignments, short deadlines. But don't circle on me. I want you to meet my deadlines because you got to be a taskmaster in terms of meeting deadlines as best you can. And kind of remind people, your time is money. I know that's important, everybody. This is a proposal manager talking to the group. Your time is money, and I want to be able to keep you being able to be billable as much as possible. I'm going to give you short assignments, short deadlines, get it back to me. And what we're going to do is have kick-along meetings, and you can either have them every day or every other day. And everyone's going to groan, oh God, are you kidding me? Every day? But you're going to be this taskmaster and you're going to say, These kick-along meetings are only 5 minutes at 8 a.m. every morning. We're just going to dial in at this number. I'm going to go around the room. Did you, let's see what's due today. Did you get it done? When one person starts going, well, I was late, and you're circling, everybody else will start teasing each other about circling. But have a kick-along meeting. Let them know that you're going to be kicking along as you go, and you're going to be checking on those deadlines regularly. And those meetings, those proposal meetings that you're going to have, the kick-along meetings, 5 minutes. You're literally going to have an alarm because it's a quick call in. Everybody can call in for 5 minutes for something. Call in, get the checklist going. Now let's say someone has a hitch where they have questions of someone else. Proposal manager, you're going to say, that's a parking lot issue or a sidebar conversation. Let's book a time a little bit later this morning for you two to meet and resolve that. So any of those parking lot or sidebar conversations will not be in that 5-minute kick along. Then you circle up with the other two, get that thing done, resolve that they're doing. You don't want two people going on and on and on in your 5-minute meeting about something they're trying to resolve. Get everybody else off the phone as quickly as possible. And again, once you start getting into the rhythm of doing this, your program and project managers, instead of running from you, they're going to see that you're very time focused and you value their time. Get them off the phone if they don't have assignments as quickly as possible. If you have kick-along meetings, maybe it's every other day or 3 times a week or, on a Monday and a Friday. It just depends on when the bid is due. But you want to have these kick-along meetings on everybody's schedule from the beginning, so that they get in the habit of checking in, so that they can contribute, especially if things change in the proposal and there's a sudden modification or some sort of another addendum that they need from you, some sort of change. You can circle up the team and get that done. Okay. So the other thing as a proposal manager is having a library, and everybody has libraries of executive summaries, which, by the way, is some people use a cover letter for their proposal. I call them executive summaries. It's 4 or 5 paragraphs talking about who you are and why you're bidding. And of course, highlighting those very important win themes. We want to have already pre-written management plan stuff and past performance. So from proposals that you've written before, you could probably very quickly create some Word documents and put all your past performances in there. In a Word document, put your safety plans, your quality assurance plans, and put them in files so that you can refer to them. And those are those yellow points that you bring them, in your proposal and bring them in. The one thing I like to remind you in your proposal library is to make sure you make those templates vanilla. What do I mean by that? Take all the customer names out of it, all the agency names out of them, and then just leave, company name, agency name, so you can quickly search and fix those and change those. Make them vanilla as templates as you're building them. And I imagine many of you already have pre-written things that you thought were pretty good that you use and then you tailor when you bring it in. So these are some typical things that might be inside a proposal library: the executive summary examples, management plan stuff, past performance, resumes, and in the back of this document, you're going to see some of these things in the back of this document as examples and templates that we've given you as well. Just kind of scrolling down here. Let's see, just preferences, all your DUNS number. These are all in your proposal library. Site visit stuff, all these things that might be inside of it. So we talked a little bit also about short deadlines, small assignments. We also have as a tool in the back is a proposal schedule for you. And it's color coded. So you can have this proposal schedule as a document that people can go to, and you can even write in there. It's a Excel spreadsheet type document where it basically has what the assignment is, who you assigned it to, when's the due date, and whether it was provided. And then we would color code. Green means that it's done. Blue means it's still due, and red means it's late. So then nobody wants to be red. So they're going to say, turn that blue or turn it green. I'm done. So there's also a proposal schedule template in the back of this document. So I want to talk a little bit about reviews and have some fun with this for a few minutes. Now, in some processes, and Shipley and others, they call them color reviews: gold team, purple team, green team, pink team, etc. But really, all I care about is, as long as you have 3 reviews, whatever color you call it, 3 reviews. And just for now, we're just going to say, let's say we were talking about that proposal that's due in a month. So immediately when you create the proposal schedule, proposal managers, you're going to want to put on the calendar when you want your proposal reviews to be completed. That final proposal review needs to be almost, at least a week before the proposal is due. And I know some of you are laughing at me right now. I get it. This isn't a perfect world. Because a lot of times the last proposal review is you by yourself late at night going through it. But let's just say in a perfect world, remember, you're writing less proposals because you have a great bid no bid decision. So you only write winners, and now you have a little more time to spare to get it right. So the first review, and I even like to even use things like index cards when I do it, or just considering. The first review, I take my calendar, let's say it's due in 30 days. I'm hoping my final review is at day 21. So then I need the second review at day 14 and the first review at day 7. Day 7, when you're still deconstructing, probably. So the goal here is not that the proposal's done and you're just reviewing. It's just making sure you're hitting the right milestones at the right points. So in the very first review, we want you to make sure that the proposal's deconstructed right. Did we deconstruct it right? Has the deconstruction been edited? And has someone double and triple checked everything to make sure that we have all the checklists, the compliance matrix, the table of contents the way we want it? Did we hit on the win themes early and often? So did we get those green points in there throughout? Is the outline based on the RFP's outline? Are there any tricks to this agency submission so we're looking for just anything that could trip us up? And have we incorporated all the items from our field information, the who, what, where, when, why, how? Have we got things, it might be a lot of blanks in there, but we've got it pretty much outlined the way we want to respond to it. The second review is, again, we're always going to go back to, have we hit the win themes early and often? Does the wording, is it starting to read like one style, one voice? And this is the point where the pricing needs to be right, not on day 21. And I know in construction and environment, it's really hard to get the pricing right in the second review on day 14 because you're still waiting for your subs to get their pricing in. So leave areas in there, but the pricing that you can control, get it done as early as possible. Because what if you realize as you're creating this thing that you're barely going to make any money on this, or your pricing's off completely, or you need to get a pricing expert on your team? I had someone recently come to me and say, I'm working on this proposal and I've got my pricing down, but I really need to find an expert. And so we did. We brought in a pricing expert and they sat down and they hashed out their approach to pricing. And it wasn't at the back end. They were working on it as they were working on the proposal, and they were really able to strategize their pricing the way they wanted to where they knew that they could actually make money. So we want to hit the pricing right as early as possible. And then you're going to tweak, but you want to get it close. The third review, it's kind of interesting because in Shipley and then some other processes, they call it the gold team review. So the gold team review, I don't know why, but I picture this. I picture the gold team review, the owners of the company and the stakeholders reading the proposal and grabbing their calculators out, and they have a monocle and their hat with the little dollar sign on it, just adding up all the dollars on, are we going to make, how much money are we going to make on this? And then they're just reviewing it for typos, mistakes. That's not how I want your third review to go. That's why I want it on day 21. The third review is on day 21 because you still have time to fix problems. You still have a couple days. If you do the review the night before, then you're scrambling to answer or fix holes. So we got to get that close to final review as far back as possible so we can adjust. Also, if they add amendments or modifications, we need to be able to adjust in those last couple days as well. So here's what I want you to do. Remember, let's say in a bid, you know the players and the layers, as Judy calls them. You know the contracting officer. You know the end user. You know the whole end user team. You know the stakeholders. Okay? When you get your reviewers together, I want one of the reviewers needs to role play the stakeholder in the room. And I want you to have a dossier on the stakeholder on top of that proposal they're going to read. Here's the stakeholder's background. The stakeholder doesn't want us. They want so-and-so. And then you have another person is going to role play the end user. And then you put a dossier in there. The end user loves us. They've been working with us for 5 years. We're the incumbent. They don't want to change. They love us. So reviewer number 2, you're going to role play the end user. The reviewer number 3 is going to role play the leveler, the person who doesn't care. And maybe they're going to vote the stakeholders' way. Or let's say the end users, they just don't care. And I want your reviewers to review the proposal from those perspectives. Okay? So think about it. If you have a stakeholder who doesn't want you, and they got to make sure that their proposed or their friend is going to win, how do you think they're going to go after that proposal? How are they going to review your proposal when they read it? If they don't want you, how are they going to review that proposal? What are they going to? They're going to take the red pen and they're going to tear it to pieces. They're going to look for problems. Olga, what do you think? Looks like you want to say something. Isn't that how you would do it?
Very critically, very negative right away. Negative.
You tear it up,
Yeah,
right? You tear it to pieces.
You trying
So
to
that's the perspective I'd want you to read it from. The person who doesn't want us. Okay? And then the end user who wants us. How are they going to read this proposal? Remember, you're sending them a proposal that they can defend because they want you. How are they going to read your proposal if they read it from the end user's perspective who wants us? How are they going to behave? How are they going to rate it?
defensively. Right.
They're going to highlight it,
Yeah.
all the things they love about us. See, they're using Joe as a project manager who we love. And they have security clearances, exactly what we're looking for. They have past performance. They know our processes. So the end user is going to highlight all the wonderful things. Now, the leveler is probably, I want the leveler just to read those gray boxes. Let me just get through this thing and grade it. Barely reading it, but having an opinion by quickly reviewing it. And then if you happen to have a fourth reviewer, okay, if you happen to have a fourth one, grab the person on your team that is the ultimate eye roller, that knows nothing about this process, this proposal. Just say, I want you to read this. And if anything in this proposal is like, you know, their meter for, oh God, this is so overblown. You're looking for that person on your team that if you showed them your resume, they'd start laughing because it was way overblown. Get that person on your team in your proposal editor team, because they can circle anything that looks way over the top, overblown, the prove it person. If you're going to say best in breed, you better have JD Power and Associates Award or something. Prove it. So grab one of those editors that's going to tear it apart from that perspective. Then, this is the thing that Shipley and the other people don't do. I would want the reviewer who doesn't want us, and the reviewer, so the stakeholder, and the reviewer, the end user who does, I want them to do a mock debate as if they're in the evaluation committee, talking to each other about why us, whether we should make it or we should get thrown out. And see who wins that debate. If you have 7 days and you do the 7 days early on a 30-day proposal ready to go, you're going to be able to fix problems. The end user might say some great points that are win themes, and you're going to lift those up even higher. The person who was the stakeholder who tore this thing apart, you're going to fix all those weak points. You're going to fix all the mistakes and get those cleaned up. So I just want to throw out there, I know that many times we don't have time for a mock review or any reviews. And I say, if you're writing less proposals and you do the no bid process, and you throw out proposals that you don't have time because you know they're losers, and you're only writing winners, you can invest the extra time in these 3 reviews. The big one being the mock review between the person who doesn't want us and the person who does. After reading it and getting them together and just hash it out. They'll have fun anyway, just role playing their clients. Any thoughts about this process? Remember, if you have time, in a perfect world. The mock debate, what do you think?
I wish I had the time. That's what I think. It sounds great, but it's nice to have the time.
That's the big issue, especially for a small business, Kathy, and it's very real. And that's why we want to be able to, if we're going to invest in a proposal, we take that extra half day to do it. Because if we're spending, remember, 65 grand for 4 people to write a proposal that's due in 30 days.
Exactly.
You got to do a mock, right?
And
it
comes down to the last minute. So I think the steps that you're providing are really good and really helpful, and with the organization. And I know we've gotten really good, so much better at doing this, I have to say, but it's just having the templates and having the outline and the process and everything has really, really been helpful.
Good. Well, then if we have the tools and templates to write things faster, then we might have more time for the reviews, just to make sure, and have some fun with it too. Again, these are the ones, I had someone recently come to me and say, I've done $1 million a year, but I see some opportunities that might be coming to me that might be 150 million. But, I really, they're talking about these huge opportunities, but they don't realize that it takes this kind of detail to win. $150 million deal isn't a blind bid that we write, a couple days before and slap together and throw in.
Exactly.
These are the important ones. Have a client who wants us. So it's going to take the proposal manager to build in the during the scheduling. They're just going to block that time out for those 3 reviews. So let's say it's due in a week. Then review 1 will probably be day 2. Review 2 will be day 3.
Yeah.
Review 3 will be day 4. And then you have room 5 and 6 to fix. So it's going to be fast in some cases. And it might be a 5-minute conversation. But if you can try, it's at least trying to get it in there. Right. Just going to scroll down here. Oh, I have a little saying, and this is actually comes from the journalism world. We call it just one more time. So let's say you have the proposal and it's done. And one of the things I like to say is try not to wait to send it, especially email it, on the day it's due, because sometimes it takes 24 hours for it to get through their email systems. So if you see a deadline date of Friday at noon, you need to send it Thursday at noon if you can, because it might get hung up. They might not receive it. It might not date stamp right. So But let's say you got it done on Wednesday at noon. You had a 24 hours before your deadline date is done. In the journalism world, if your writing is done and the layout's done and it looks pretty and you think it's great, the editor is obsessed with making sure it's perfect. And they have a saying all the way up to the deadline, just one more time. Read it one more time. Read it one more time before you hit send. And things that you're looking for is making sure that the way it's produced, emailed, packaged is perfect. Making sure the number, if it's, number of copies isn't that important as much anymore, but just in case, sometimes in some designs, they still want it physically. Make sure all the font sizes, the page limitations, anything that's perfect. Make sure that stuff is in there. Make sure, like I had talked about earlier, I had a situation where I had to send the corporate seal, put our corporate seal on a bond, and we got thrown out because they couldn't feel the raised. It was ridiculous, but that was a lesson learned. So make sure that kind of stuff. Little tricks is reading some of the stuff backwards. It's a great way to catch typos or the wrong words or double words. Sometimes in headlines in Word, in Microsoft Word, sometimes headlines can, if you do all caps, you have 2 words or something like that. There can be mistakes in there. Another thing you want to look for in your flow charts. Read your flow charts forward and backwards. The reason why is sometimes someone has a flow chart from an old project and they have a statement in there. So double check that stuff. Take a look at the pricing again. Make sure all the commas and the decimal points are in the right place. And then finally, always making sure that the titles of the people that you'll be reporting to, the agencies, if you put their logo, which I always feel uncomfortable about, if you put their logo on your proposal, make sure the colors are exactly appropriate, that it comes out crisp and clear and perfect. So there's things about your graphics, double check, make sure the captions underneath are right. So all the way up to the deadline point, say that phrase just one more time. Take a look at it one more time. Take a look. You don't want to get thrown out on a silly little technicality, especially after you spent 30 days putting something together, $65,000, not selling, working on this proposal. You want to make sure all the nitpicks are just so.
And one more suggestion is make sure you have the client's name right. Like if you're using a template or something, just make sure that it's like applying to college where you say, really, I'm excited about applying to this college, but you put the wrong name in,
Oh, it's devastating. And also make sure your acronyms are exactly perfect and define them as well.
Yes.
Make sure that if you're part of a team, and you name the team members, that you're not taking a template from another team one. So do a lot of searches. So, and again, an old editor's trick is the minute you write something, and you think about it, when you're on a roll and you're writing, you can even say this to people that your team that's writing. When you're on a roll and you're writing, you're usually on a roll for about 2 paragraphs. Stop, read it backwards right away, and then keep going. That's an old editor's trick. You can catch so many, or read it aloud to yourself. Some people write and they skip words. So look for those kind of things.
Yeah. Good point.
Good. Just little things like very classic, the, manger versus manager, public versus that other word that sends bubble up, Virginia versus, there's all kinds of little mistakes that are perfectly written that could be really embarrassing.
Exactly.
So search and destroy, public, go through anything that says the word public, make sure that's fixed. Okay, so oral presentations. Now, oral presentations don't happen as often anymore. It's not too often, but in the Zoom days, sometimes they bring people in on Zoom and they have a conversation with you. But I do want to talk a little bit about oral presentations because sometimes they happen. And being a keynote speaker and doing presentations on a regular basis, I always like to share just a couple of little things about these. So if you, and I'm just going to throw out a scenario. Let's say you're invited in for an oral presentation and you're the last one of the day. They've asked you to prepare something for a half an hour. It's 4:45 and it's your turn, and they come in and they say, sorry, you only have 15 minutes. Come on in. What are you going to talk about? What's the most important thing you need to cover first?
Say that one more time.
Okay, so let's just say you've been invited to do oral presentations, and there's 10 companies doing oral presentations. Everybody gets half an hour. Your presentation's booked for 4:30. You're there. Their day has gone too long. It's 4:45, and right before you walk in the room, the person says, sorry, your time has been cut in half. You only get 15 minutes. What do you talk about? What is the most important thing you talk about first that you make sure is covered in your oral presentation?
Your main point.
The most important. What was that?
The main point, the win theme?
Yes.
Okay.
Hit the win theme ingredients. Here's the cake I present. We have a 3-tiered cake with 7 layers. That's peach on the top, it's vanilla in the middle, it's chocolate on the bottom. We also have the chocolate on the bottom. It's a velvet cake, so it's got a red interior. When you cut it open, we have a sidebar cupcake for so-and-so because they are gluten-free on your team. You hit the solution with the win themes right out of the gate. Because sometimes people save their win themes for the end and their half an hour presentation. Come out punching with the win theme first. Okay. So that's probably, if there's anything, is typically what happens is they talk to you and your time that they gave you in the proposal, we're going to give everybody half an hour, and they come out and go, you only have 15. Knock it out of the park with a win theme. No problem. So first and foremost is if they tell you you're going to be doing oral presentations and they give you an outline, create your outline behind it, starting with your win theme. Always, if they give you a certain time frame, like a half an hour, make sure you end at 25 minutes. Always end early. They appreciate that first. And also, if they have some questions, you might have some time to customize what they're thinking, what they're concerned about. So start rehearsing it and tighten it up really tight so it ends early. And there's room in there for them to have some dialogue with you, which you'll probably uncover. The other thing, and just kind of throwing some stuff out there, if you're on Zoom like this, update your cameras, practice with each other. Make sure everybody in your office, if they have multiple windows open, make sure your internet's running perfectly, all that kind of stuff. And you need to be rehearsed and ready. And also you need to rehearse, what are we going to do if something goes wrong? So let's just say, for example, you're driving in to do an oral presentation in Washington, D.C. What I would suggest is have 2 main people that could do the presentation by themselves if they had to, and they travel in separate cars. Travel separately, because if you get caught in DC traffic and one way on the Beltway versus the other, someone could get held up. So if you have the whole presentation team in one car and you're in traffic, you're toast. So travel, have 2 people traveling in separate cars, 2 people that can actually do the presentation. The other reason why you want to be able to have 2 people who can do the presentation is sometimes people get stage fright. They panic. Sometimes they get sick and they lose their voices. Sometimes they just go blank. So you have each other to kind of bounce off of each other, and you have a backup plan in case anything goes wrong. If you go in and they say, email us your PowerPoint, and you email it to them, I want you to come in with thumb drives. A lot of times at some places you can't put your thumb drive in their stuff. So they're going to say, no, you know, you're going to make sure all those security things about your documentation. But I also bring it, copies of it in writing, so that if everything technically goes wrong, I can pass it out and I have the presentation by heart. So if everything falls apart, I have backup to a backup to a backup, because sometimes they stage it for things to go wrong and see how you as a team fix it and modify and tweak, especially if you have a couple teaming partners. The other thing too is I suggest that the program or project manager that would be leading the team would be leading the oral presentation. Why? Because they're going to be on site with that client and we need to see them. And if they are so technical and they have a hard time walking, talking, and chewing gum at the same time, but they're brilliant, right? Get them some oral presentation training. So they start feeling really comfortable in front of a camera, in front of a group, working their verbal, especially if they're, you know, you have like this just brilliant person. We really want to get those program and project managers doing the presentation. If you have an owner or you have a teaming partner that's coming in with you, I want them rehearsing with you, because here's what happens. I call it the ego attack. Sometimes you go into an oral presentation and someone might say during the orals, you know, you shouldn't have asked for this. You shouldn't have done this. You should have done it this way. They think that they're just throwing everything off by like, this is why you should work with us. They get this brilliant idea to throw a bomb in the middle of the room, which is going to get you thrown out. So the other thing about rehearsing the oral presentation, if you have multiple teaming partners working together, rehearse and everybody sign the document that you agree to sticking with the script, because going off script will lose you the deal. So that's important in the orals as well. I had one client who said that he was invited to the orals and he was like, it was a blind bid. I should not have been invited. I shouldn't have been one of the top 3. But I got invited. So I thought, you know what? I have nothing to lose. So he went in there with all this enthusiasm and he's waiting in the lobby. And the thing is when you're not the incumbent and you really were surprised that you were invited in, I want you to kind of go in with the enthusiasm. Look, if I don't get this one, this is my opportunity to shine for next time. So that was the energy that this person went in with. He went in with this total creative, I'm going to be good. It's going to be fun. I'm probably not going to get it. So I'll just have fun with it and really connect with them for next time. So he gets there and he's the 3rd presenter. And the person before him had a panic attack and ran out of the presentation crying. And the customer was banging on the bathroom door. Come on, Joe, come out. No. And so this guy goes in and he took the deal. He won. So sometimes in oral presentation, even though I say don't put too much weight on your team because they're going to be panicky. Like, if we don't win this is $50 million. It's so overwhelming. Go in there with the creativeness of win or lose. This is our opportunity to win them over for future opportunities. Bring your enthusiasm and creativity, but always lead with that win theme. So win theme first, rehearse it, rehearse to end early, rehearse a shortened version if they cut the time on you, and have 2 presenters that can comfortably present it. You know, whether one shows up or the other one's sick or whatever, you have a backup plan when you're out there. All right, next building block is best and final offer. I don't know if some of you have run into this, but I got to tell you, this is where it gets pretty interesting. So the proposals have gone in, you've been waiting for 6 months for them to have a decision, and suddenly you get a phone call out of the blue. You've made it to the top 3. You know, can you possibly give us a better offer? They just throw it out there, best and final. And this is such a, this is where your spidey senses and your intuition comes in. This is about knowing your customer and knowing your competitors. So in some cases, you might think in your mind, you know what, if I just cut this by 1%, it looks good in the file, it's good. But if you feel like your price is just about where it needs to be, like when I price things, I like to go in aggressive. But I go in as aggressive as possible so they know that every time I bid, I don't budge. This is my best price. And then if you call me in an emergency, I'm always going to give you my best price. I'm not going to go, okay, 10% off. Then they're going to say, my God, you really overdid it, right? So I want you to think about your approach. Go in aggressive with your pricing and be able to say, I stand behind my rate, because sometimes when they ask you best and final, I'm not kidding you. You might already be the lowest price. But I had a situation where a client came to me and said, best and final offer. And I said, the rate is good. And they had a deadline date for this particular opportunity. It was like due in 3 days or something. And the delivery was due in 5. And I said, here's my best and final offer. My rate is good, but I need 10 days to deliver this. No one can deliver this thing in 5. So I'm telling you the truth in my proposal that I need 10 days from award to deliver this. So if that means losing this deal, I'm okay with that. And they immediately told me, well, you lost. And then I said, well, is this the point for a debriefing? And they came back with, yeah, you were the lowest by 8,000. And I said, well, if someone isn't packing the trucks and delivering to you today, they're not going to make that 5-day deadline. I'm telling you that right now. And sure enough, they didn't. And that client came back to me and said, you know what? From now on, we're going to work with you, sole source, giving you 10 days every single time because you told us the truth and you were a good price. So best and final offer takes some intuition, knowing your competition, knowing your customer's budget, knowing where you stand and what you need to hit. Sometimes they hit. You know, it probably couldn't hurt if you were 2.4% below. I've heard that kind of stuff happen. Now, people don't like that, but it happens. I lost a deal against one of my competitors. That was $10 difference. I lost on price. No, I didn't. They had the relationship, and they probably talked to the vendor to say, cut it under this, and we can justify price. I knew I was beat because of they had a relationship. Had nothing to do with my price. So best and final offer, it's a really, really thin line in terms of what you need to do with it. But you have to make sure that you don't cut the price so low that you're not making money, because then you're going to go out of business really quickly. Debriefing. Debriefing, you get about 3 days from award to asking if you can ask for a debriefing. Some agencies say, sure, ask for a debriefing, but maybe culturally it's not acceptable. So I use a phrase when I ask for a debriefing, and I actually ask for it in verbally. I say, is this the point where I would ask for a debriefing? And they would say no. And I go, okay, I let it go. But if I ask for a debriefing and then they come back and say, sure. Now, many companies like to use this for the opportunity to get feedback on how they laid out the proposal, where their weaknesses were, where their strengths were, how they were graded, what the price was compared to the winning. You get a redacted version of what the other guy had. But here's what I use a debriefing for. I use a debriefing to find out if there's anything else coming down the pipeline. And to offer, look, I'm always going to be here. So whatever it is that you chose this current vendor, I'd love to be the backup. So I use the debriefing not only to learn a little bit about why I lost, but mostly what's the opportunity coming down the pipeline? Because if we were truly the second one, like, oh, you almost won. Just by this much. If you only did X, right? Okay, so what else is coming down the pipeline? Or I'd love to be the backup for them. Because if you truly were that good, they might throw to you in that debriefing what's coming. I have a brother who sold aerospace engineering to the Air Force. And he had a $50 million deal that was going to be his. He was going to get it. And he lost. And the Air Force called him and said, "Get in here, Bill. We want to talk to you because we want to have a debriefing with you." And he's like, "Oh, okay." So he came in, and it was like a 1,000-page proposal, and they pulled one page out and showed it to him. And they said, "You know, you would have won it if it weren't for this." And it was a flow chart. And that flow chart was a flow chart they built as a template 2 years before. And in one of the bubbles, it said, "Super duper, overly expensive, will never deliver on time radar system." She's like, "How can we award you this contract with that joke in there? You killed us." And so right now, that's literally framed on his wall as a reminder of just one more time reviewing. But at the debriefing, right there on the spot, he said, "Anything coming down the pipeline?" And they said, "Yeah, here's a $13 million task, sole source." And he's like, "Can you do that?" And they said, "Just did. Any questions?" He's like, "Nope." So even in a devastating loss of a $50 million deal, he still walked away with $13 million worth of work. So there is the opportunity in the debriefing to ask, "Anything else coming down the pipeline?" And we'd love to be the backup if you need a backup, so that things go wrong or that the current incumbent needs extra support. There's some other things in here that you can read a little bit about in the debriefing. But these are things. Now, a lot of people like to talk about protesting. The government, they encourage it. They say, "Sure, go ahead and protest." Why? Because we're going to prove to you that 90% of the time they win. 10% they lose. And you know, when they re-compete it, the vendors who won the protests usually don't win the deal. So it's just my position. Everybody's got their different opinions about protesting. It's my position that protesting can create a lot of bad blood between you and your customers. And sometimes it's just worth getting past the proposal. If you lost it, if you have extra time, you have some one-on-one with the client, then maybe you can have an offline conversation with them about maybe mistakes you saw in it or trying to learn. But threatening protest, it just doesn't win friends and influence people. I know a lot of lawyers out there push the protest. And of course, if something's ridiculously wrong, there are things that we can, bring the red flags forward. But if this is a client that you're trying to build a relationship with, do your best to try not to. That's at least my opinion. And you can always email me or write to me and talk to me further about it. I know a lot of people like to use it to hold up a bid or hold up a situation, but it just doesn't really go well on the customer level. If you're Boeing and Lockheed, they protest against each other all the time because their opportunities are in the billions. The stakes are high. They hold stuff up. So just some final thoughts. I think that as you build your federal sales action plans, bring in your lessons learned. Bring in an expert to help you with the data before you do your bid, no bid. Who is the incumbent, etc. Learn from your debriefing. Ask for extra information at the debriefing so you can learn about the client more. What's coming? I had a client one time who told me that she wanted me to come to 3 proposals. I need you to come to 3. One was in Duluth, one was in Fargo, and one was downtown Minneapolis. They were rooftops. And you know what I read between the lines? I need you for all 3 because I don't have 3 vendors in Duluth. I don't have 3 vendors that are legitimate in Fargo. If you do those first 2, I'll give you feedback. And then you might have a chance on that Minneapolis deal. She didn't say that, but That's what I interpreted, and that's exactly what happened. The first bid I sent in, I got feedback from the proposal. It was redlined all over the place. I lost it. The second one I sent in, it was a little better. The third one was perfect, and it was more than double the price of both of the other two put together. So she actually helped set me up, teach me toward a win for the big one, saying, I need you to come to all three. She needed some losers, but I got to learn along the way. So the briefings can be really helpful. I also wanted to point out some really great networking things. APMP you're probably members of, LinkedIn discussion groups. There's all kinds of blogs, Twitter postings, GovLoop, GSA Interact. The SBA has great resources for proposal writing. But also I just kind of wanted to scroll down here and just show you really quickly before we wrap up. Let me just get this here and scroll down. Just kind of show you. I'm thanking you here, but I'm going to just scroll down a little further. Some things we've got here for you. We've got tools and templates, pages and pages of them. So here's the proposal management schedule. So it gives you that color coding we were talking about and things that you need to do to pass out to the team. This is also great for managers when they say, hey, where are we at on the proposal? The proposal manager, you can just show them this. They can have a link to this Google Doc. Here's an outline for an executive summary, that 5-paragraph document. That's the first page. And here's an example executive summary. So we have lots of tools and templates in here. Here's the table of contents, which we showed you before. Here's a past performance template. Here's an example past performance. Here is just scrolling down. Oops, yeah, that's an example past performance. We also have management plan. This is the worth of the price of this class. If you're reading and they say to you, you know, you need to put together a subcontracting plan. You go, I don't know what's included in one. This document has like 20 points under each and every one of these different plans, and it gets you writing. So I don't know what a staffing plan looks like. Well, we've got some outlines for you here, and you can start writing to these points to have your library ready to go. So there's about 18 to 20 management plan points in here with some sub-points to get you writing and building your plans. So then instead of you going, I don't know what I need to have, there it is. And then I've got a couple of examples. Here's a quality control plan as an example. So these are all in here in the back of the book. Going to kind of scroll past them quickly. We'll make our deadline, I promise. Okay, management plan. Here's a safety plan. And then we have some resume outlines that you can get from your team so that if you have your resumes all laid out the same, it's really easy to put them together for the proposal template if necessary. And then we have in here some people that we've known over the years, Judy and I, that we thought had really great articles they wrote. So we provided some of them are older, some of them are newer that we've added to this new one built on in 2021 of Building Blocks of a Winning Proposal. But there's some great little articles in here for you. Let's see here. Scrolling down. Great articles on win themes, great theory stuff, some really great resources in proposal writing. So we thought we would include some of these articles. So again, I'm just going to scroll past them really quickly. And then at the very back of the book, I think we have some great proposal writing tools and people that are available to you. These are all really great people available. We've got, of course, Judy, and I'm here, but there's Carl Dixon, Capture Planning. We have Josh Kramer has some really great articles, and APMP and others. So what I'd like to do is just right now open it up to any last minute Q&A and throw it back to Judy. Judy, if you're here, ensure that you're there. Here she comes. Let's see the proposal deconstruct example. There you go. Here comes Judy. She's got the PowerPoint going.
Still here. And so this is your time to ask last questions, but I would like all of you who are here to just come on live on mic and tell us what one thing Do you commit to trying today? What's the next thing you're going to do because you've opened up these tools? What one thing are you going to do differently?
I'm definitely going to ask for a debrief for a couple of the proposals.
Absolutely.
I know what I did wrong.
Well, and even if you win, ask for a debriefing.
Okay.
You don't know, if you don't ask the question, whether you won by a length or you're just won on a technicality and they're all holding your nose, but they didn't really want to give it to you. So it shows humility and a quest for excellence when you ask for a debriefing, whether you win or you lose. Okay.
Thank you.
Who else? What's your takeaway? Kathy?
Yeah, Judy, this is Kent. I would say there's a variety of things here, but most certainly I think it was refreshing to talk about writing and maybe visualizing journalistically how we want to break down those paragraphs and what do we want to achieve. That's going to be something that I absolutely am going to be taking away from this.
Fabulous.
Hey,
Yeah.
Judy and Elaine, I think for us, the important thing is, you've been talking to us for a while, is we need to get better on timelines and getting our proposals in sooner and not the last day or the day before, because we're pretty bad about that.
The good thing is that you're at a great inflection point now. You're moving upstream. You're getting ready to grow. So you're getting your hands around some good practices at a fabulous time. We're really excited for you. And other questions coming up? Anything that is just you've been struggling with? It's something that's coming up for you as we wrap up.
No questions, but I'd really like to say that this is very helpful and thank you. It's been very organized. I like the way that you present things, the stories that go with them. Everything was just really well done. So thank you.
You are welcome. And anything else comes up, let us know. We are thrilled to have the opportunity to work together with Eileen Kent and to have the benefit of what you can see are clearly years of experience and millions of dollars of wins working with teams in approaching every federal agency. So we're absolutely thrilled to have gotten the chance to do this. You can see Eileen's contact information here, 312-636-5381. That number again, 312-636-5381. Eileen Kent Stevens at gmail.com.